My name is Quresh Ali Lansana, and I am a co-author of a brand new children's book called Opal's Greenwood, Oasis. I co-authored this book with Naja Amatullah Hilton, who is a poet and a teacher, middle school teacher in Oklahoma City, and illustrated by Skip Hill, who's an internationally known, internationally recognized visual artist who now lives here in Tulsa. This is my second book with Skip and my first book with Naja. And I'm just proud as I could be to be a part of this project. Opal's Greenwood Oasis was born from my conducting 17 years of research on the Greenwood District and Black Wall Street. I was born in a town an hour and 40 minutes away from Tulsa, a town called Enid, and only learned about Greenwood and the massacre from older relatives. It was not taught in Oklahoma history classes, and not only the massacre as well, but the rich history of the Greenwood district that was destroyed was never taught in Oklahoma history classes or in K-12 education in this state until 2 years ago. But as an educator myself, it was important to me to also be able to present this history to younger readers. Again, there are grown folks here who don't know any, of all ethnicities, who didn't know anything about this massacre until this year, this last couple of years, as we approach the centennial of the massacre. But what was Greenwood was one of the most, if not the most, from 1905 to 1921, perhaps the most economically vibrant, wealthiest black community in the country. And the big reason for that is because the black folks in Greenwood owned their land, they owned their property, and that distinguishes Greenwood from even Bronzeville in Chicago, a place I lived for many years, or Harlem in New York, or the Hill District in Pittsburgh, is that black folks owned the businesses, owned their land, and owned their homes. And so, and Greenwood was an oasis, which is why we named the book that. It was an oasis for black life in a town that had some of the harshest Jim Crow laws, in a state, I should say, that had some of the most severe Jim Crow laws of any state in the country. And so black folks could only live north of Archer. And so this district, which was 36 blocks, 36 blocks of black wealth, over 300 businesses, again, elegant homes, schools, churches, post office, banks, all built by black hands, all owned by black people. And so it was an oasis in the sense that it was safe. Folks knew one another. Folks cared about one another. Yeah, there were nightclubs and juke joints and places that, there was a red light district in Greenwood, where even white folks came to hang out. But Greenwood had everything, right? And we write in the book that Opal says in Greenwood, we have everything we need. And it might surprise you to know that everyone looks like me, right? So we wanted to make sure that several things about Greenwood, about the district, were represented in this book. One is sort of my mantra of black excellence over black pain. Right, the massacre again is one of the most, one of the worst incidents of racial violence in the history of this country. Right, people dropped bombs from crop dusters on black folks in this district in 1921. But we also wanted to make sure that we celebrated what black folks built from 1905 to 1921 with their own hands, their own money, their own ingenuity, their own entrepreneurial spirit, right? That be celebrated. And so Opal takes us on a bike ride, her first solo bike ride, to run an errand for her mother, to go to Mr. Mann's store to get some cinnamon. And so she takes us through the vibrancy of this black life of the district at the time. And folks reach out to her, Opal Brown, are you riding that bicycle by yourself? Because they know one another. And she's by herself. She's on her first solo bike ride, which is something I think all children can relate to. Secondly, we wanted a girl-forward focus. I wanted to make sure that the lead character in this book was a black girl child. As many of you know, there are still to this day in 2021 more children's books with lead characters as animals than there are of BIPOC children. And so, and even fewer for black girls or girls of color. So we wanted to make sure that that this was a girl-forward book, and not to dismiss boys or anyone from any ethnicity, but wanted really to centralize the power of girlhood and womanhood here in this book by making Opal the lead character. And then, again, I think lastly, we wanted to. The book ends on the day that the massacre, really the riot, initially the riot, the mob gathering at the jailhouse, and then the massacre really occurs on June 1st. So we wanted to end the book just before the mob ensues at the jailhouse, the courthouse, because we did not want the violence and the horror of the massacre to overwhelm kids at this age. It might be too much, right? But what we did provide in the story, were jumping off places, about 6 different sort of jumping off spots where an adult, a teacher, a parent can guide a conversation with young people about what the massacre was. And about what happened to Opal's Greenwood Oasis. And that was intentional as well. I know that there may be another book that actually goes into the massacre with detail, but we chose as educators, as teachers, to allow the adults to guide those conversations in the ways in which they felt empowered to do so. So, but again, above all, we wanted to celebrate with Opal's Greenwood Oasis the wealth, the prosperity, the ingenuity, the entrepreneurial spirit, the courageousness of black folks living in deeply segregated town with some of the most severe Jim Crow laws of anywhere in the country, and that they not only survived, but thrived, and that is to be celebrated. Hi, my name is Race Ali Lansana, and you can buy any and all of my books at aalbc.com.